All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Louisville's Recovery and Resilience webinar alongside with Pet Help and Rescue. We're talking animal disaster preparedness and just providing an introduction to how you can prepare your pets and your animals for any future evacuations, emergencies, and disasters. My name is Kiana Freeman. I also have David on the line. We're going to go through introductions in just a minute, but let's just go ahead and dive into what we are covering today. So as I mentioned, we're going to go through an introduction of who we are, who we work for, and really what our background is. Then we're going to dive right into pet preparedness tips and how you can get started in preparing your pets and animals for any disasters, emergencies, incidents, and events. We're going to help you start building your grab lists and your go kits. And then we actually have a demonstration through David and his team on the very new and amazing tool that is out there to really increase our resilience for our animals and pets. And that is the Pet Help and Rescue application. And then we'll have a Q&A at the very end of this webinar. So we have about an hour, a little less than an hour of our time today to spend with you all talking about animal preparedness. Some housekeeping items, as just a reminder, as I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please go ahead and just jump offline. We will be posting these slides, this recording, as well as additional pet materials on the City of Louisville's website. We will also be following up in an email to the participants who joined today with all of the materials and resources that we covered. Just so everyone knows, everyone is muted right now. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat feature. Should be there on the bottom of your screen. And you're welcome to chat any questions throughout the webinar, and we'll get to those at the end. At the end, we'll also do a Q&A, and you are welcome to come off of mute and ask one-off questions in that capacity as well. Please be respectful of the audience and those who are online, as well as the presenters. And then, as I mentioned one last time, all this content will be shared following our webinar. Well, I'm excited to talk about pet preparedness. So let's go ahead and dive into who David and myself are. As a reminder, my name is Kiana Freeman. I am the Recovery and Resilience Manager with the City of Louisville. I've been in this role for coming up on a year in August, so still fairly new. The division itself with the City of Louisville is fairly new as well. And so we are working on a variety of different initiatives on preparedness in the disaster setting, as well as mitigation in the disaster setting. My background, just so everyone knows, I have a big background in emergency management. I have a big passion for community resilience. I personally lived through the 2011 earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear crisis in Japan, so I've lived through disaster. And for me, one of my goals in my career is really to enhance the resilience for our communities. I have 2 dogs. I'm an animal lover, so if you hear a lot of passion and excitement talking about animal preparedness, it's because I love my dogs. They're my children, basically. And I just got really excited talking about how we can protect our pets. We have David Crawford on the line as well, who is an amazing resource in our community here locally. So David, would you mind introducing yourself and your organization? David, you are on mute.
Okay, here we go. All right, first glitch. Thank you, Kiana, and I appreciate the opportunity today. So yeah, I've been doing animal rights and animal advocacy work for a long time, more than half my life. And I was involved with Rocky Mountain Animal Defense, which was around in the 90s and early aughts. And now I'm working with Animal Help Now. It's a nonprofit organization, and we develop apps that help animals and help the people who care about them. We're a mostly volunteer organization. Our headquarters are right here in Boulder County in Superior, but it's we're a small organization. We're distributed, so the headquarters are actually in my home, and we have volunteers and staff members, just like 2.5 FTE. Throughout the country, and we have, I think, a couple in Canada at this point. So we work hard and try to produce things that help, and I'll tell you more about that when I start my presentation.
Amazing. Thanks so much, David. It's been a pleasure working with you, getting this webinar and app also up and going. So really excited to share that application here in just a few minutes.
Fantastic.
Let's go ahead and dive right in. So one of the first things when we look at animal preparedness, when we look at how do we protect our animals from future disasters, one of the first things we need to do actually is stay informed. So starting with yourself, starting with your family, that is our first step actually in being able to protect and prepare our animals and our pets. And so a couple ways we can do this to really increase our resiliency as an individual and as a family, as well as a community, is to sign up for emergency notifications through BOCO Alert and ReachWell. These are the Boulder County's owned applications. If you're not in Boulder County, there's some additional resources through your own county or your own municipality on how you can receive emergency notifications. We're going to dive and spend some time into BOCO Alert and ReachWell in just a few minutes, so I'm going to come back to that. Another great way to stay informed is weather applications. If you have an iPhone or an Android, I'm sure you have the standard weather app. But there are actually other applications like Climb, like the National Weather Service, that really have more in-depth alerting systems about what weather is going on, whether it's fires, wind, heat is one, especially with pets, we need to be aware of for our surroundings, rain, participation, etc. And so it's really critical for us to be aware of what weather is happening in our area. And then there's tons of preparedness applications out there, everything from the Red Cross to David's application that he will post and talk about in just a little bit, to a variety of other different preparedness applications specific for emergencies and disasters. And so having these resources and really engaging in these resources on your small smartphone, if you have one, if you don't have a smartphone, websites, emails, newsletters, etc. This starts as your first step to be prepared for your pet by staying informed. So let's talk more in depth about BOCO alerts. So again, this is run by Boulder County. It's an opt-in alerting system for calling, text, and email. And really what opt-in means is you have to physically sign up in order to get these alert notifications. For BOCO alerts, specifically for this opt-in application, you can add up to 5 addresses on this system. And so what happens is when you log in, you can actually manage up to 5 systems. And what we recommend between City of Louisville, Superior, Boulder County, and those who are working in this area is putting your home address, your work address, kids' schools, and really frequent areas that you go often. So that way, when something and if something happens in that particular area, you actually get that notifications with that address that's affiliated with your account. So if you want to sign up, go ahead and scan that QR code. If you can't scan it because you're on a mobile device right now, you can type in bocoalert.org and actually register for BOCO Alert. And so I know I have that for my work just because I personally don't live in Boulder County, but I have it for all of our offices and different places we frequent for our work environment here. It's a really great tool to stay informed, be prepared, and that is run by the county. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to either throw it in the chat or send us an email. We can connect you with the right individuals at the county to help you get further signed up or further manage that account. So I'm going to leave this up here just for about 15 seconds more so you can go ahead and scan that QR code and get it ready to sign up. Okay. So BOCO Alert is a great application. The other one that the county is really pushing that we really love is ReachWell Translation app. And while this is traditionally a translation app, it actually is great for emergency alert notifications. So you can actually download this application, and what it does is it provides alerts in over 100 languages with more than 5 locations. So this is great if you have multiple kids at different schools, you have just different places you frequent that need to go above that 5 location region. And so what you can do is download this app and add BOCO alert directly to the application and get it translated, or you can add multiple locations if you have more than 5 locations you're looking to monitor. It works the same as BOCO alert, so it is opt-in. You physically have to download this application to a mobile device or a tablet, and actually you have to continue to manage your locations yourself. But this is a really great way to stay informed across all of Boulder County, as well as help you get translation if you or anyone in your family or community requires it. So I'm going to go ahead and also add this QR code up here that you can scan and download. If you are having issues with the QR code, just per whatever iOS or Android version you have, you are welcome to just look on your application store and download the ReachWell app. There are specific instructions to get BOCO alerts on the City of Louisville's website under Preparedness if you need further help to get BOCO alerts into ReachWell. So as I mentioned, we want to start with ourselves. We want to prepare us as human beings to further provide the support that our animals need, since they don't have thumbs and typically they can't help themselves in a time of need. And so when we look at actual pet preparedness, what can we do with our animals, whether you have dogs, cats, chickens, horses, etc. First thing we want to do physically with our pet is know our pet. And so we really want to know behaviors and reactions. Do they hide? Are they a reactive animal? Do they run? Are they a runner? How do they escape? We want to know what those behaviors and reactions are. We also want to know if they have anxiety. Do they have anxiety with people, certain types of people? Do they have anxiety with other animals, types of noises? And we want to really notate on a documentation of what happens to your animal when there's some type of stress, and also what happens to your animal when there's no stress at all. So I'm going to pause really quick right here and just tell you that the dog on the screen is actually my dog. Her name is Avalanche, and she is leash reactive. So you clip a leash on her and she is reactive around other animals. You take the leash off, she has great recall and she is totally fine. But it's something that all of our neighbors and all of those who take care of her know that when that leash goes on, we actually keep her away from other animals just to protect her and other animals. And it's something that is really important to us to notate. So for us, as getting to know your animal, we want to know what those behaviors are, in a normal state, and then also when there's some type of stress. We want to know also, what type of health concerns does your pet have? Is there a specific health concern that vets and neighbors and those who take care of your animals need to know? Are they on medication? And we'll get back to medication of why this is important in just a second. And then what happens when they're stressed? Biologically and mentally, what happens to your animal? So really getting to know your animal even further than what you traditionally do in a normal state is really critical. So that way it can help build your preparedness, your family's preparedness, and those who might have to evacuate your animal. So we're all ready. That way, they know what to expect from your animal if something were to happen. So now that we know our animals, we're looking for behaviors, we're looking for if they're a runner, we're looking at what could happen with different types of anxiety that could occur in your animal. We want to build a grab list and a go kit for your animal. So generalized speaking, we want to make sure that we have extra food on hand. Please be aware of expiration dates, especially for, dry dog food and wet dog food, cat food, chicken food, whatever type of food you have on hand, just be aware of those expiration dates. Typically when I'm at the store, I'll just grab a small extra bag or grab more dog food than I typically need, just so that way I can grab and go and it's the freshest type. We want to make sure we have water on hand, bowls on hand so we can feed our animals, and then medication. As I mentioned, what health concerns does your animal have? We want to know what type of medication your animal is on, so that way if you are grabbing and going your different types of kits for your different animals, we actually have the medication on hand for that particular individual pet. We want to have identification and photos. This is a really critical one. We want to make sure our animals are microchipped. We actually have paperwork for our pets on what types of vaccines and health information is related to that individual. We want to make sure, they're properly collared and tagged. So that way, if they do get away from you or are separated from you, we're able to quickly identify, and those who work in the field are able to quickly identify who this animal particularly belongs to, photos are really helpful. You can describe my dog or my cat as a particular breed and looks like this, but having an actual photo in your kit is great because then you can just say, hey, this is exactly who I'm looking for. And we do explain that to also people when we build grab lists and kits as well. We want to include photos just because it's easier to see a photo than try to have a lengthy description of what your animal looks like. You want a carrier or crate, especially if you have an animal that is maybe a little scurrier, but it also protects your animal. So if you have to evacuate your animal in a motorized vehicle, or if you have to physically carry your animal, it's a little safer in case there's some type of accident. They're not kind of swaying around. And so really that carrier and crate is a safety mechanism for them as well, but it also helps store your animal if, for example, you have to evacuate into some type of shelter capacity. Obviously, leashes, we want to keep those animals contained. Even if your animal is great with recall, for example, we still want to make sure we're able to leash up our animals so they're not getting away from us and getting even more into danger. Comfort items are a great item to have, toys, blankets, etc., bones, etc. Really those comfort items and those beddings really help de-stress and I would say decrease the amount of anxiety because they're familiar with something in a high stress time. Bedding, I'm going to talk about just quickly. You know, if you have an animal like a guinea pig or a hamster or something that requires straw or a specific type of bedding, you want to make sure you have some extra on that because we don't want to drastically change that environment too much for this animal as we're looking to evacuate or get our animal out. So we want extra of that on hand. And then emergency contacts. This includes who your backups are. If you are away from home, who are you calling to say, hey, you know, my animal got out, or, you know, I need you to go get my animal out. We want to know who your vets are, emergency contacts for your vets, if they go to daycare, etc. These are the people that know your animal. And so since they already know your animal, if someone needs to get a hold of them, you're quickly able to have that contact information in your kit ready to go. So you don't really have to pause and think about it. We talked about paperwork, and the last thing on a generalized list is a first aid kit. First aid kits are just great just in case something happens and you just have to quickly support your animal because you can't get them to a vet. So having a pet first aid kit is great. I could talk about pet first aid kits for a very long time, so we don't have enough time today, but if you have questions on what can go into a first aid kit, there's tons of resources out there to help you build one, and there's already pre-made ones out there. The photo of the pet health record book is a great concept or one that you can build. It really helps build your pet profiles as well as put pictures, and really helps take a lot of the information that I just talked about and put it into a little booklet documentation that you can throw in a kit. So you might be wondering, I have not a dog or a cat. I have very specific animal considerations. This goes to really all types of animals, whether it's a pet, a farm animal, livestock, which we'll come back to in just a little bit. But you want to start thinking through, what do your pets need day to day now, and what would happen if you have to remove them from their generalized environment? And so really you want to think through litter, filtration drops if you have aquatic animals, what type of tank environment does your pet currently need, and then how would you transport that if you had to take them out of your home? You have large animals, trailers. I think I heard from the state a couple of weeks ago, there are not enough trailers for how many livestock or horses people have. And so really making sure we're thinking through trailers to transport your pets, catch nets, etc. So once we build our grab list and our kit, we actually have the bulk of our plan created for how are we getting our animal out of our particular home in the time of need and the time of crisis. So once the first step is built, which is building a kit and building a grab list so you're able to grab and go with your animal, we want to actually document how are you evacuating your animal, writing down those habits and those behaviors that we talked about just a few minutes ago, taking pictures of your animals. You want to actually document that, whether that's in that pet help record booklet or it's in just a piece of paper that you're keeping in a central location. And then you're sharing that with your neighbors, with your friends and your family, and you're talking about what would happen to your animal if a particular incident or event occurred. How would you evacuate your animal if you were home? And then how would you evacuate your animal if you were unfortunately at work and you couldn't get to your house or you're out of town? Sharing and getting to know your neighbors is so critical. We're going to come back to that because that really ties into David's application. But it's really important to have these conversations because a lot of us can agree probably that our pets are like our family and we want to make sure we're taking care of them in time of need. So start the conversation. It can be a hard conversation to start with, and I completely understand that, but it's one that needs to be had. So we're protecting part of our family. You might be wondering, what about livestock and farm animals? I have chickens, I have turkeys, I have sheep and cows, etc. There are a lot of resources in addition to the standard home pet out there about how you can transport and get help transporting and preparing large scale animals or large quantity of animals like chickens or other types of farm animals. Lots of resources out there. If you stay till the end of this webinar, we'll provide you with those resources to help you build a separate plan for livestock and farm animals. Generally, it's the same type of plan. You're building a grab list, you're making a plan and documenting that plan for livestock and farm animals, and then you're sharing and communicating what that plan is. So coming back to knowing your neighbors, it is critical to know your neighbors and to have your pets know your neighbors. As I mentioned, one of my dogs is a little leash reactive. And so when we moved into our first home, we made sure our neighbors to both sides of us and one across the street, as well as a couple, in the vicinity, knew and met our animals and knew their behaviors. So that way, if neither of my partner or I were home, they would be able to say, hey, I'm going to go into your house because you're not home. I'm able to evacuate your animals and I know where everything is. So knowing your neighbors is so critical in time of an emergency and of a disaster. And so I'm going to hand the webinar for a demonstration over to David to talk about the PetHelp&Rescue application to help you connect with your neighbors and others in the area to protect your pet and help them get rescued if needed. So David, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Here we are. We'll get this started here. I'm using a Mac and I'm normally a PC person, so you'll have to forgive occasional fumbling here. It's wonderful to be a part of this webinar today, and Kiana is a tough act to follow. If her supervisor is on this call, I recommend giving her a raise. She's really impressive, and I'm really happy to be working with her. We have breaking news today, and I'm bringing it up because it's been going on 2.5 years. I found out at 11 o'clock that our Android version of the PetHelp&Rescue app is now up in the Play Store. It is a beta version, but we've done a lot of testing on it. We feel comfortable and confident that it's going to be effective. And this is really significant for us because, as you can imagine, if we're just an iOS app and this is neighbors-based, communication. Hey, can you help my dogs if I need help? And do you have an iPhone? That's not great. So getting the Android app out is huge. The iPhone app was out on about the 27th of December of last year. So big news. And I don't know if these QR codes, if the QR code for PetHelp&Rescue there goes to the right place, or if you can even access it from there, but we will be putting the link up to the store. You can find the app in the iPhone and the App Store easily. You can find it in the Android Play Store by searching PetHelp&Rescue. We'll work on those search terms, but that's the one that worked for me. PetHelp did not work. PetRescue did not work. PetHelp&Rescue did. Animal Help Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this app, but it was one that was developed here in Boulder County, and again with volunteers around the country eventually. And This is a wildlife emergency app. And we see increased use every year. Last year, we helped with about 125,000 wildlife emergencies across the United States. We also have humane wildlife conflict resolution service there. So you can go to Animal Help Now, our website or our phone app, and you can get help for wildlife emergencies, and you can also get help to humanely resolve wildlife conflicts. So my history with the Pet Help and Rescue app started with the fire, and on that day, I was home, thankfully, and I was able to quickly get my two elderly cats into a carrier and grabbed a few things and then hit the road. I felt like I had time to go around the block and knock on some doors. And behind one door, I heard a barking dog that would have been Chief, a young German Shepherd, and the homeowner was not home. It was very hard to reach him. Finally got through to him through social media. Long story short, my neighbor Mike, who has dogs and had a truck, he went over and kicked in the door where Chief was and got Chief onto a leash and rescued to safety. There's actually a video shot by Mike's brother showing that rescue. And the two things about that, one is that when I went around the block, unbeknownst to me, I wasn't aware that there were other animals who needed to be rescued. So in that one square block, I went by a cockatiel who was waiting for help. I went by there was a home with a turtle and a tortoise inside. There was another home with two dogs and a cat. There was another home with a cat, another home with a cat. That was one square block, and those are only the ones I know about, and they all perished in the fire. And I'm hoping that this doesn't, trigger people, because I know you were all here, or most of you. And the other thing is that at one of those houses, they were trying to reach me, and they to let me know, ask me if I could get over, and I'd never, received that that communication. So those two incidents, that incident made it obvious to me, and we develop apps. We're a nonprofit, and we develop apps, and so it was obvious to me that if communication were easier during a disaster, if we focused on really what's probably as important as what's more important than anything is making sure your family's safe. And as Kiana said, these are our family members. So why not create an app that focuses exclusively on rescuing our pets, evacuating our pets when disasters threaten and strike? I'm going to point out one thing, and then we're going to get into the demo. This is just kind of as a summary page. This is the app. That's the home page in the middle, and but on the left here is kind of an overview of what you need to do to get the app up and running. It's all about preparation. This is certainly consistent with the theme of Kiana's presentation. This is you download the app, you create a profile for yourself, you create a profile for each pet or each dependent animal, and then you build a network of trusted contacts among your neighbors. I added this notifications thing because if you download the app and you install it and you don't allow notifications, you've essentially you've neutered the app. This app has to have notifications enabled and allowed. That's how it works. So I'm bringing that up. I didn't have an easy screen cap to throw in here, but we do have a notifications page where we ask for you to do that. Make sure that you allow notifications. Now I'm going to attempt to get over to my simulator. And good, there it is. Let me get rid of this background. Okay, so this is what the app looks like. The one thing that you're not really going to see here on a simulator is effective use of those notifications, because a simulator has limitations in that regard. But I'm going to take you through this, and we'll give you an example of how the app works. The first thing, as you recall, I said you need to set up your profile, you need to set up your pet's profiles, and you need to set up contacts. Your profile is here. It doesn't have a lot of information in it. We don't need a lot of information. It has your picture and basic, contact information. And then that one down at the bottom is a big one. That tells your neighbors and contacts how to get into your home. They never get that information. That is kept on your device. This is a very secure application. They won't get that information unless you send out a request for their help and you choose to include it. So obviously everybody has privacy concerns these days. That's one thing to note about the app. How do you get into my house? Instead of breaking a window or breaking down the door, because if the house survives the disaster, you don't want to come home to a broken door, ideally. The other thing that's significant here is that I can help or I can't help. I got to get into edit mode to show you what the options are. So I can help or I cannot help. If you're somebody's neighbor and you aren't, if you're infirm, if you're otherwise abled, if you're elderly, too elderly to go rescue a dog, you can indicate here that you cannot help. You'll have, if you're using the app, that means you have animals who need help, but you have the option to set your status to I cannot help in an emergency. Okay. That's a big thing in the home access information in terms of the user profile. In terms of your pet profiles, and I'm using the word pet. I never have liked the word pet, but we have to make this thing marketable. So I'm a companion animal companion kind of guy. But these are your pet profiles. This person has 3 different animals, or in one case, it's a group of animals who are dependent on this person and who might need to be rescued during a disaster. If we look at one of the profiles, we see that we have the photographs that Kiana had mentioned are so important. There's room for 4 photographs. Always a good idea to have a picture of you with the animal to show, as Kiana kind of said, that you are associated with that animal. The other information in here is along the lines of what we talked about. There's a description. There's where's the animal likely to be, and then where is the animal going to hide. This information is you add this when you add a animal profile, and we make it clear what kind of information we're looking for in addition to just the label here. Where are the medications? What are the safety instructions for the rescuer? And then additional information, the go bag and the carrier and the front closet, for instance. Okay, so that's the information you put in on your dependent animals. I will say that when you add a new animal profile, you'll have some options here. We did factor in this group of animals issue. So if you have fishes in an aquarium or if you have backyard chickens, and you want to choose, you can go with the pet group profile. And we make it clear then how many animals, we ask how many animals we have, give you a name for the group. Not that that is going to make a difference really in the rescue situation. We ask for animal type. And these are the different types of animals that we are currently listing specifically. If you are outside of, if you have an animal that's outside of this list, you use the other field. And then the rest of the information is what you saw when I showed you Junebug's profile. And then the final thing, we talked about the user profile, we've talked about the pet profiles. The final thing is your contacts. So, if you want to keep your pets safe, when disasters strike, you have to know your neighbors. On that day, there was nobody able to get into the neighborhood. Everybody was going the opposite direction. The only people who could help rescue the animals who were really easily able to, were your neighbors who were home when the disaster struck. So you create a network of neighbors. You don't need to know a lot about them. You can find out, you can see their pet profiles through this, but these are your neighbors. Let me see if there's anything else I'm supposed to mention about them. Oh, the check mark and the minus sign, that harkens back to the I can help or I cannot help. So Annie, for whatever reason, cannot help. She could change this to I cannot help if she's on crutches, recovering from a knee or injury or something like that. So it's a versatile app, and we tried to take a lot of those sort of factors into account. So we have those three things: your profile, your pet's profiles, and your contacts. And then we're down to the actual usage of the app. So if you need help, let's say this is a impending disaster, you found out that your neighborhood is under threat, you're not home, you open the app and get help in 4 easy steps. I'm not going to come back to non-emergency, but I've been directing volunteers for 30 years, and our key iOS, our iPhone volunteer, said when I first approached him about helping with the app, which was a week after the fire, we got to work on this. It took us 2 years to get it out. A week after the fire, Frank said, yeah, I'll help, but I need a non-emergency option because I'm always stuck at work and I just need to ask my friends and neighbors easily if they can coordinate somebody going over there and letting the dogs out. Hence, we have a non-emergency option because I needed Frank desperately to be involved. And then, so we choose emergency in this case, and then you also choose which trusted contacts to request help from. Well, Annie indicates she can't help, but hey, she's off her crutches. She was off her crutches a week ago, so I'm going to go ahead and add her. And I know that Henry's out of town, so I'm going to leave him out of it, et cetera, that sort of thing. So we give you these options. And then the next thing is to choose which pets need help. If Clyde is with me, then I don't want people looking for Clyde, the dog, when they're going in to rescue the animals. So as you can see, the message down here changes when I add Clyde, when I remove Clyde. If for some reason I don't want to include my home access information, I can take it out easily. And then I can also come in here and do a little customization on the meeting, on the message. So wildfire alert heading our way. Something like that, and then I press send a message down here, and it's as simple as that. So everything is all about preparing this information and then making it as easy as possible to get it into the message that you're sending to your contacts. I send the message. Annie, as you'll recall, was not indicated she can't help. So Annie did not get the message. She's this one. And then who was it? CJ. CJ can help. So he sees this message, and you're going to get the notification. You're going to get the banners. You don't need to be in the app. And so you can be anywhere on your phone. But if you have to have your notifications set to get the notifications, obviously, right? I can't stress that enough, but I will stop trying to. Okay, so CJ gets this. He opens it up, and he gets this emergency alert. He sees all the information. We see that Clyde isn't in there. We see that the home access info. We see that the message that Bo added is in there, wildlife alert heading our way. And we get this little important reminder to review the pet information. We want people to be practicing and being familiar with their neighbors' pets, so that they know where their hiding places are in advance. But if you just, to be sure, you can go in and you can see, and you can remind yourself what Junebug looks like, where his hiding places are, where his meds are, etc. And that lists the animals who need help. So you can go in here and if CJ is ready, he's like, I can get them in a few minutes. And he sends that. And then that comes back immediately to Bo, who can then breathe a sigh of relief. And the people who are on this thread, there are 4 people here. Annie, and then I don't remember who the 4th is. Actually, not Annie. There's these 2 on the left and right, and then 2 more people. They're all going to stay in the loop here. So over here, we have, oops, I forgot to send it. Thank you, keep me posted. If CJ, if he has new information, I can't get there, whatever, can someone else, we're tied in with the people, and CJ does not need to be contacts with all of the people who Bo, the sender over here, who Bo is contacts with. Anything CJ writes is going to go to all of the people Bo sent this to, whether or not CJ has them as contacts. And then someone else writes in and says, yes, I want to leave this with a happy ending. So got it. Okay, so that is how the app works. I don't know if there's anything else. All I'll add is that this is a very early version. We have many improvements and features in mind. We are very interested in your feedback. So please, I'm going to go back here and resume the slideshow. Why is this there? Click to exit full screen. I don't know what that means. Okay, we're going to just finish this up down here. So this is Chief. This is the, he doesn't look like a German Shepherd, but he's a German Shepherd. And this is my neighbor Gil rebuilding his home. And Chief is, this is the first time I saw Chief since after the event, after the fire. We were very happy to see each other. That's my happy face, in case you can't tell. Couple details, this free app. I told you about the secure information. We're going to make sure that people get app-driven reminders to keep their information up to date. You don't want people in your home during a disaster searching for animals who aren't there. And then I'll definitely be talking to Kiana more about this checklist and tutorials. We've got a list up there, but I think we can do better based on what I saw today. Got various partners now. And we also have brochures. So if anybody has a public facing role or has a store or any place where we can put the brochures or donation containers, we've got donation containers up at Superior Liquors and Flatiron Pet, but we're just getting started with those. So these 2 things are available. We'd be happy to make the brochures available to anybody, any place where we can get the word out. And I consider myself to be the most accessible executive director in the country. I live at 208 West William Street. And this is my personal cell phone, my email. Please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for sharing, David. That app it gets me so excited to continue knowing our neighbors and getting them connected with our animals. And just to confirm, this application is available all across the country. It's not just specific for Boulder County. Like, you can use it in any state, any part of the United States, correct?
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we are excited to continue to share this information out with the group. So anyone, if you have questions, feel free to ask David. We'll put his contact information in our wrap-up materials and on our website at the City of Louisville. So that way you can continue to download your app and share the word about this application. I'm going to go back to just wrap us up to our final few minutes of today's webinar. So as we wrap up preparing our pets it is really critical to not only download this amazing app and get that conversation going with your neighbors and with your family about how are you going to prepare your pets, but we also have a variety of resources, and this is just a small view of how much pet preparedness is out there. But one thing that's not on here that I would like to add is talk to your vet. The vets that you have really are ingrained into this type of conversation. They know your animal, they know kind of the animal environment as well. And so really utilize all the resources out there to be prepared, have these conversations. You can find a variety of pet preparedness information on the City of Louisville's website coming out today, as well as Colorado State University Extension Office. They have a disaster pet preparedness website. Office of Disaster Management also does, with Boulder County, also does pet preparedness events. Town of Superior, who is on here today, also does pet preparedness events. And so there's a lot of community building here, even in Boulder County, to really look at the other side of our families and prepare our animals and our pets for any disaster that could occur. Here is our contact information. I'll put it up after in that post email to you all. Thank you again for attending today. I hope this webinar was a great amount of resources for you to get started as an introduction to pet preparedness. And we're going to open it up to questions. So I know that there is some information going on in the chat if you have the chat feature open. But if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I can put you off of mute, or just type in the chat your question and David and I will stay on for a couple minutes and answer any questions. Give it just a couple more minutes for any questions that come in. If you are hopping off for the rest of today, thank you again for attending our webinar. Feel free to share this information and reach out if you have any additional questions or concerns. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up for today then. Feel free to reach out again if you have anything that you are looking for us for pet preparedness. But thank you, everybody, for attending our webinar today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kiana.
Thanks, everybody. David, do you have a couple seconds to just stay on?
I do.